Whenever we come up with an idea for a product, a business, or a process for a workplace, there seems to be always a huge gap between idea and execution. And the root cause of that is because we create mental lists of things that we need to do. And as humans, we tend to work on things that are either more comfortable for us, more enjoyable, or just easier. So there's no real priorities when we work on these things. To reduce that gap, we should always think of a sequence of events and have clear priorities to do that. And if you are like me, I think I understand things way better when I look at them, when I can see them. And for a while now, for myself and for my customers, I've always been using mapping tools from the whiteboard, sticky notes, and some software. The problem with all of those is that they usually don't evolve. They usually just, after the meeting, it becomes another email, another list, and priorities are basically abandoned. So I had a vision of having a mapping tool that could reduce that gap between idea and execution by showing you and forcing you to think of a sequence of events, and also bringing the data world, basically spreadsheets and cost and all sorts of data in just one place. My name is Gabriel, and I created this tool called Gekko, and it's basically a mapping tool that can hold data in it. And its purpose is to reduce that gap between an idea and execution. And I'm going to show you three basic things. The first one is the mapping capabilities. You won't believe how easy it is to map a process and get a clear idea of what you need to do. The second thing, I want to show you how this tool can hold data, either financial data or production times, and it's insane how easy it is. And third, real life cases on how this tool allows some people to reduce time between idea and execution. So this is the interface in Gekko, and as you can see, it's very simple. And to start a new map, basically, the only thing that you have to do is click New Engine. And I call them engines because it shows you kind of the motor of your company or your idea. So I'm gonna just save it as idea number one. And we're gonna start. So the only thing that you need to do is double click, and these boxes start to appear, and you can put any name that you want. And you can put design or concept design. There you go. And click, and then you have your first box. And as I was saying, the idea of the software is for you to be forced to think in a logical way, in a sequential way. So the next box can be budget for this, and basically you can add more boxes, and at the same time you can delete those links and move those boxes to other places and connect them like this, or move a group of boxes just like that and move it somewhere else. And as you can see, you can move things to other places, and it's pretty simple, and you can reconnect them, and it's not such a big deal. So I'm gonna work with the one that I was working, which is called this one, and I'm gonna make it smaller. And as you can see, I have a pretty simple concept of a first draft of any given product. And what we can do here is to say, okay, we don't have the technical drawing, so basically that's a broken system. And we can click on the symbol, and now we know that that process is not completed. The same with prototyping. Maybe we have production costs, but we don't have any fundings. And as you can see at the left side of the menu, we're gonna go into report later, but there's a few alerts, and that's basically telling you that you have a few broken systems. So if I keep going and basically making sure that I mark all of the things that I don't have, basically now I have a map of, I have a concept of what I want to do in a very logical way, but I can mark very easily the things that I don't have. Now, as you can see, I just have boxes with names. And if we keep going through the left side menu, I can create categories. And this is pretty interesting because it can be more than one thing. In this case, what I'm gonna do is to assign all of those things to somebody in my team, or it can be areas of the business. But in my case, because I'm starting this company, I'm basically gonna try to create a few team players. So there you go. So the only thing that I need to do here is just to double click again the box and to assign on the newly created categories that person that is going to take care of that. And I can keep going and doing the same with the rest. Production cost, I'm going to give it to Lisa. The same with cash flow. Every financial thing I think is going to be Lisa. And I'm going to mark this as Roger. So what we have right now on the left side of the screen is that whenever I assign basically a box or a process or however you want to call it in the engine to somebody or a specific area of my business, I can just mark, let's say I'm going to click on Andy, and now I know exactly what Andy's in charge of. The same with the rest of the players. So if I want to concentrate just on my thing, I can do that. And I noticed that sometimes creating bigger engines, a few things get uncategorized. So basically I have this so people know, oh, we haven't assigned all of these activities, so we need to do that. That's called the focus section, the focus mode. And again, I can just concentrate on somebody or some areas of the business. And this is really cool because sometimes I can have a big organization. I actually done this for school, and they had such an unbalanced team. And when I click, let's say Andy, he had a bunch of boxes, and when I click on Lisa, she just had a few. And it was pretty obvious what we needed to do was create a more balance to that. So that's pretty simple to do. As you can see, we can create categories, but we can also, we keep going, we can create needs. And needs is basically something that specific box needs. In this case, technical drawing, I don't know, I'm gonna create my own needs and I'm gonna do a group. It can be a hire, can be I need a system for that, or can be training. And in my personal company, I actually use those for operations. Usually I need one of these three. So let's say the first draft, Andy's gonna take care of it, but he needs a little training because he's new on the team. The same with the technical drawings. I'm gonna say that we need training for that specific part. And prototyping is not being assigned, so I can actually say, you know what, in this section, or this box, I actually need to hire somebody. So I can do that. And the same, I can go on with Lisa. Basically, maybe I don't need anything, but on marketing budget, I really need a system. It's not so much of hiring somebody, but I need a system. So as you noticed on the left side, I have a few alerts on this specific box that is called report. And that's one of the coolest thing about Gekko is that you can actually see a report as we are basically creating our system. And I can go and see what I need, the systems that are broken, the systems that are okay, the category that again can be an area or somebody. But I can go even further because this is just the mapping side of things, as you are noticing. Again, I can move things around, I can unclick them whenever I've been solving this. So that's the cool part. I can actually see my progress, and as I was saying in the introduction, it doesn't get forgotten just like a whiteboard or sticky notes or any other mapping software that is not very dynamic. I can move things around and I can mark my progress. So I'm going to show you a little bit about data now. So when it comes to data, that's one of the most powerful things in this tool, is that it's not just a drawing. I mean, so far with this, I'm very happy, and I've used this many times, but the part that was always difficult was to put data. And the data that you can put in the system is actually pretty good. Let's say if the first draft is gonna cost me, I don't know, $500, I can say, okay, this is gonna cost me $500, and it's gonna be just one payment, so I can put it during a year, and it's gonna be an expense. And I can click save, and as you can see, a little red dot has appeared on the box, meaning that it's an expense, or that area is associated with an expense, and actually I can see the cost at the top. Let's say that for some reason I get funding, which I would love, and that funding is gonna be $100,000, and again it's gonna be a yearly, and it's gonna be revenue that is gonna come my way. And I click save, and now a tiny green button has appeared, and that means that of course this is generating money for the company, and maybe I can unclick it, and now I have a pretty good system that is healthy and actually making money. But I can also add to all of these areas the time that I'm gonna spend on this. So let's go on the first draft, and I have a time measuring tool here, and I can say, you know what, it's gonna take me, I don't know, 5 hours to do this. And I select hours, and of course a unit, and it's gonna be productive time. I can usually also select waiting time, and I'm gonna do it now, but in this case this is productive time. And again, I have productive time for that specific box. So let's say we have a production scheduling, and I need to have a new activity here. I was gonna say scheduling 2, or waiting for results. We're gonna do that. And this makes a lot of sense in manufacturing and other areas in which we have waiting times and productive times. So waiting for results can be a lot of time, and I can say, you know what, this is gonna cost me 90 days, and it's gonna be just waiting time, so it's basically wasted time. And I can say, you know what, we have a big gap here, and we need to do something about it. And every piece of data that I'm putting here is gonna be, of course, reflected on my report. As you can see, time is 5 hours of productive time, and 720 hours of just waiting time. And so far I have like 99K in profits, so I'm making some money with this thing. The one thing I forgot to mention is that if you don't like the plain black and white, you can select the dark mode, which is pretty cool, or my favorite, which is the 1984 mode, which is pretty vintage, but that's a taste thing. But you can go back to light mode. There's also something else that you can do here, and this is really cool when you're trying to map out maybe a software, and it's the logic section. If you double click in every box, in each box, you have, as you can see, a logic section. And this is very useful because basically what you can do here is to create the logical steps of something that you're creating, pretty much like an app, a software that you want to create based on your mapping. So basically, if you say the first draft is going to be an automated thing, and then we go to technical drawings, you can explain that in the logic section, and you can add a simple description. You can say this is going to be performed by a human, a system, or both, what data comes in, what data comes out, and the conditions. If, let's say, the draft is done, what happens after that? When I save all of that, and in the case of a software, everything is mapped out with the logic section, I can actually take this report and export it as a JSON file that will allow me to feed it into a no-code system, a no-code development system, and I can create my app based on this mapping. And as you can see, if you have a pretty good idea on how you want to do your app in terms of what happens after this, and after that what happens, and pretty much a very logical way of thinking, you can end up with an app that you can actually commercialize. As I was showing you before, I have a tiny map, or engine as I call them, of manufacturing, and as you can see, we have labels in between the arrows. That's one thing that I can do. I can, if I want to be more clear in what I'm trying to do, I can apply some labels. So basically what I just need to do is hover over the arrow, and I can say this is a direct process, or this is, depending on something, this is indirect. And of course I can move them so I can see better. And as you can see, I can grab my tools to move everything again, so I can make it more organized. But as you can see, the actual mapping tool is very complete because it allows you to move things around and evolve, and that's the idea of the map, to be dynamic. And again, the data that you can put is very complete. You can export it as a CSV file, and all of the financial information will be organized pretty much like a P&L. You can export it as a PDF, and you can actually put your own data on it, like your name and your company, so you can work with other people. Or as I said, if you want to work in a developer environment, you can export as a JSON file using the logic section for each box. So basically you have a map that will allow you to create an app. And if you're part of a bigger organization in which maybe your students or clients are going to be using this, you can collect information if basically your clients or students are doing kind of the same thing, and know which type of box or which type of process in your institution tend to give the most bottlenecks. And you can get a bunch of data as an enterprise mode in which you can have access to what people are doing with your maps. So as I said, this is a pretty amazing tool in terms of mapping, forcing you to think in a very logical way, get data in terms of money, time, the production times, waiting times, and a logic section that can allow you to create software if that's what you need to do. So thank you for checking it out, and most of the features are for free, so you can go to gekkosystems.ai.